I projected my husband's sex with his architect onto the elementary school fundraiser screen while he was receiving the Father of the Year award in front of our kids, the PTA, and 300 parents. The bronze plaque slipped from his hands as the entire auditorium watched his secret life unfold in real time. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a simple photo backup changed everything. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and for 12 years, I thought I knew exactly who my husband was. Mark and I met in our early 20s at a community college in Cedar Falls, Iowa, a small town where everyone knows everyone, and secrets don't stay buried for long. He was studying business management while working construction to pay his way through school. I was getting my teaching degree, working weekends at the local diner. We were the couple everyone rooted for, high school sweethearts who actually made it work. We got married at 24 in the same church where we'd both been baptized. Nothing fancy. Just family and friends crammed into wooden pews, potluck reception in the fellowship hall, and a weekend honeymoon at a cabin 2 hours away because that's all we could afford. I started teaching 3rd grade at Cedar Falls Elementary. Mark worked his way up from construction crew to project manager at Riverside Construction, one of the biggest builders in our county. We saved every penny for 5 years before we could afford the down payment on our modest 3-bedroom ranch on Maple Street. Then came our kids. Emma arrived when I was 28, and 2 years later, we had Jake. They became our whole world. Mark coached Jake's little league team. I volunteered for every school event, every bake sale, every field trip. We weren't rich, not by a long shot. I drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic. Mark had a Ford F-150 he'd bought used. We clipped coupons, shopped sales, and saved for a family vacation to Disney World every few years. But we were happy. Or at least, I thought we were. Mark's company had been growing steadily over the past 3 years. They'd landed several major contracts, a new shopping complex, a couple of housing developments, a renovated downtown building. With that growth came new hires, including Jessica Chen, a 29-year-old architect who'd moved to Cedar Falls from Chicago. She was talented, ambitious, and according to Mark, exactly what the company needed to take things to the next level. He started mentioning her name casually at dinner. Jessica suggested we redesign the lobby entrance. Jessica found a more cost-effective material supplier. Jessica thinks we should bid on the community center project. At first, I didn't think much of it. Mark had worked with plenty of people over the years. But then the late nights started. "We've got a big deadline coming up," he'd say, kissing me on the forehead before leaving at 7 a.m. and not returning until after the kids were in bed. "Jessica and I need to finalize these blueprints." Weekends disappeared too. Saturday mornings that used to be for Jake's baseball games suddenly became emergency site visits. Sunday afternoons we'd reserved for family time turned into client meetings that Jessica set up. I tried to be understanding. Money had always been tight, and this growth meant more security for our family. His increased salary had finally allowed us to stop worrying about every unexpected expense. When the washing machine broke, we could replace it without putting it on a credit card. When Emma needed braces, we didn't have to set up a payment plan. I told myself the long hours were temporary, that once these big projects were complete, things would go back to normal. But Mark became more distant. He'd come home exhausted, barely able to hold a conversation. He stopped asking about my day, stopped helping Emma with her homework, stopped throwing the football with Jake in the backyard. When I tried to talk to him about it, he'd snap that I didn't understand the pressure he was under, that he was doing this for us, for our future. I backed off, swallowing my concerns, trying to be the supportive wife. Then came the annual Cedar Falls Elementary Fundraiser Gala. It was the biggest event of the year, a semi-formal dinner and auction held in the school gymnasium every November to raise money for new equipment, field trips, and program funding. As a teacher, I was heavily involved in planning it. This year was extra special because Mark had been nominated for the Parent of the Year award, recognizing his volunteer work with the sports programs and his company's generous donations to the school. I was proud of him. Despite how busy he'd been, he'd still made time to coach, to donate, to show up for our community. The award ceremony was scheduled for 8 p.m., right in the middle of the gala. I'd bought a new dress for the occasion, nothing expensive, just a simple navy blue dress from Target that made me feel pretty. Emma and Jake would be there too, dressed up and excited to see their dad receive his award. The afternoon before the gala, I was preparing my classroom for parent-teacher conferences when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from our shared family iCloud account. 2,847 photos uploaded from Mark's iPhone. We'd set up photo sharing years ago so we could both access pictures of the kids. Mark wasn't particularly tech-savvy, so I usually managed the account, creating albums and organizing memories. Curious about what photos he'd taken, maybe pictures from a recent project site to show me, or candid shots of the kids I hadn't seen. I opened the app while sitting at my desk during my planning period. The first few photos were normal. A blueprint spread across a desk. The foundation of a new building, a sunset over a construction site. Then I saw it. A photo of a woman's bare shoulder, her dark hair cascading down her back. The next photo showed her lying in bed, sheets barely covering her, looking over her shoulder at the camera with a smile I recognized from company events. Jessica. My stomach dropped. I couldn't breathe. This couldn't be real. There had to be an explanation. But there wasn't. I kept scrolling, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. There were dozens of them. Photos that made it horrifyingly clear what had been happening during all those late nights and emergency meetings. Pictures taken in what I quickly recognized as the bedroom of Mark's apartment. Apartment. He had an apartment. Between the photos were screenshots of text conversations. My vision blurred with tears, but I forced myself to read them. Jessica, can't wait for tonight. I bought something special for you to take off me. Mark, you're killing me. Still 3 hours until I can get away. Jessica. Worth the wait, trust me. Same place as last time? Mark. Yeah, Sarah thinks I'm at the Henderson project site until 9. There it was. My name. Proof that he knew exactly what he was doing, exactly who he was lying to. I scrolled back through the timestamps. These messages went back 18 months. 18 months. While I'd been making his favorite dinners, doing his laundry, raising our children, supporting his career, he'd been building an entire secret life. I sat there in my empty classroom, third-grade artwork surrounding me, and felt something inside me crack. The bell rang, signaling the end of the school day, and I could hear children's voices echoing through the hallways, their laughter and shouts a stark contrast to the silence screaming in my head. I needed to get myself together. I had conferences in 20 minutes. Parents would be arriving soon to discuss their children's progress, and I needed to be professional, composed, present. Somehow, I made it through. I smiled, I discussed reading levels and math skills, I offered encouragement and strategies. But the whole time, my phone sat in my desk drawer like a ticking bomb, filled with evidence of my husband's betrayal. When the last parent left at 7 p.m., I locked my classroom door and let myself fall apart. I cried until my eyes were swollen and my throat was raw. Then I pulled myself together and drove home. Mark was already there when I arrived, sitting at the kitchen table with Jake, helping him with his math homework while Emma practiced piano in the living room. He looked up and smiled. Hey, honey, how were conferences? Just like that. Like nothing was wrong. Like he hadn't just uploaded proof of his affair to our family photo account. Fine, I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. I need to run to the store. We're out of milk. I drove to the empty parking lot behind the old movie theater and called my best friend, Michelle. We'd known each other since kindergarten, been each other's maids of honor, raised our kids together. When she answered, I couldn't even form words. I just sobbed into the phone. Sarah? Sarah, what's wrong? Are the kids okay? The kids are fine, I choked out. It's Mark. He's Michelle, he's been having an affair. Silence. Then, I'm coming over. Are you home? No, I can't go home. I can't look at him. I'm at the old theater parking lot. Stay there. Don't move. I'm 10 minutes away. She arrived in 8, pulling up in her SUV and immediately climbing into my car. I handed her my phone without a word and watched her face change as she scrolled through the photos and messages. Her expression went from confusion to shock to absolute fury. That son of a, she caught herself, took a deep breath. Okay, we need to think about this rationally. Have you confronted him? No. I just found out 3 hours ago. I don't even know what to say. Do you have somewhere you can stay tonight? You shouldn't be in that house with him right now. I can't leave. If I leave, he'll know something's wrong. And I need time to think. The gala is tomorrow night. He's getting that award. Everyone we know will be there. Michelle looked at me carefully. What are you thinking, Sarah? I don't know yet. But I'm not going to let him stand up there and accept an award for being a great father and community member while he's been lying to everyone for a year and a half. I'm not going to smile and clap while he plays the role of devoted family man. We sat there in the dark parking lot for another hour, Michelle helping me think through my options. She was a paralegal at the only law firm in town, and while she wasn't a lawyer herself, she knew enough to guide me. First thing Monday morning, she'd connect me with her boss to discuss divorce proceedings. But that was 2 days away. Tomorrow was the gala. When I finally went home, Mark was watching TV in the living room. The kids were already in bed. He looked up when I came in. "Took you a while to get milk," he said, eyebrows raised. I held up the gallon I'd actually purchased on my way back. Ran into Michelle. We talked. "Everything okay?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the milk at his head. I wanted to show him the photos and watch him try to explain his way out of it. Instead, I said, "Fine. I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed." I spent that night lying next to my husband, the stranger I'd shared a bed with for 12 years, and planned. When Mark's alarm went off at 6 a.m., I pretended to be asleep. I heard him shower, get dressed, kiss my forehead before leaving for what he said was an early site meeting. The moment his truck pulled out of the driveway, I was up. I had so much to do and less than 12 hours to do it. First, I made copies of everything, every photo, every text message. I uploaded them to a private cloud account only I could access. Then I called Michelle. "I need your help," I said when she answered. "Can you come over?" She was there in 15 minutes, coffee in hand. I showed her what I'd found in more detail, walking her through the timeline. Her jaw clenched tighter with every swipe. "What's your plan?" she asked. "The gala starts at 6. The award ceremony is at 8. I'm going to be there, smiling and supportive, playing the proud wife. And when Mark gets up on that stage to give his acceptance speech in front of 300 parents, teachers, and community members including our children, I'm going to make sure everyone sees who he really is." Michelle's eyes widened. "Sarah, are you sure? That's going to blow up your entire life. His career, your reputation in this town. The kids, my life is already blown up." I cut her off. "He did that when he started sleeping with Jessica. I'm just making sure he doesn't get to pretend otherwise. I'm done protecting him." "Okay," Michelle said slowly. "Okay. What do you need me to do?" We spent the morning creating a presentation. Using the photos and text messages from Mark's phone, we compiled them into a video file, time-stamped and dated. Nothing explicit enough to be inappropriate in front of children, but enough to make the affair crystal clear. Screenshots of text conversations, photos of them together at restaurants, at what I now knew was his secret apartment, in situations that left no room for doubt. Michelle helped me edit it down to 3 minutes, adding simple text overlays with key messages. While receiving this award for being a devoted father and community member, Mark Mitchell has been lying to his family for 18 months. Having an affair with Jessica Chen, an employee at his company. Using work as an excuse to betray his wife and children. It was devastating to watch, but it was the truth. And if Mark was going to stand up there and accept praise he didn't deserve, everyone should know the real story. The technical part was trickier. The school used a projector and screen for presentations during the gala. Principal Hendricks always gave a welcome speech with a slideshow showing highlights from the year. The PTA president presented award nominees with photos and bios. I volunteered to help with the technical setup, claiming I wanted to make sure everything ran smoothly since Mark was being honored. No one questioned it. I'd been helping with school events for years. I arrived at the gymnasium at 3 p.m. with Michelle and another teacher friend who was in on the plan. We set up tables, hung decorations, arranged the silent auction items. At 4:30, when most volunteers had left to go home and get ready, I connected my laptop to the projection system and loaded my presentation file. It was set to play at exactly 8:15 p.m., 3 minutes into the award ceremony, right when Mark would be giving his acceptance speech. I went home to shower and change. Mark was already dressed in the suit I'd bought him for his birthday, navy blue, crisp white shirt, my favorite tie. He looked so handsome, so trustworthy. How had I never seen through it? "You look beautiful," he said when I came downstairs in my new dress. He tried to kiss me, but I turned my head so his lips caught my cheek instead. "We should get the kids," I said. "Don't want to be late." The gymnasium was transformed. White lights strung across the ceiling, round tables with centerpieces, a small stage at the front with the projection screen behind it. The place was packed. Teachers, parents, school board members, local business owners, everyone who was anyone in Cedar Falls attended the annual gala. Emma and Jake were excited, dressed in their best church clothes. Not understanding the significance of the evening, they sat at our assigned table near the front, chattering with friends while Mark shook hands and accepted congratulations from fellow parents. I watched him work the room, all charm and smiles. The perfect husband, the perfect father, the perfect lie. Michelle sat at a table across the room with her family, our eyes meeting periodically. She gave me subtle nods of encouragement. Principal Hendricks welcomed everyone right at 6, the slideshow playing perfectly behind her. Dinner was served: catered chicken and vegetables. Nothing fancy, but nice for our small-town budget. I pushed food around my plate, unable to eat, my stomach in knots. At 7:30, the auction ended. At 7:45, PTA President Linda Morrison took the stage to begin the awards ceremony. She started with the Volunteer of the Year awards, presenting plaques to parents who donated countless hours. Each recipient gave a brief thank you speech while family members beamed with pride. Then came the Parent of the Year award. Linda explained the criteria: community involvement, dedication to children's education, embodiment of school values, generous support of school programs. She showed slides of this year's nominees: Mark Mitchell, Elena Rodriguez, and Tom Patterson. Each slide featured photos and accomplishments. And this year's Parent of the Year is... Linda paused for dramatic effect. Mark Mitchell. The gymnasium erupted in applause. Emma and Jake jumped up, clapping and cheering. Mark stood, buttoning his suit jacket, that proud smile on his face. He kissed the top of my head as he passed, then walked to the stage. He accepted the bronze plaque from Linda, shook her hand, and turned to face the audience. "Wow, thank you so much," he began, his voice amplified by the microphone. "This is truly an honor. When I think about what this community has given to my family, to our children..." I pulled out my phone. Under the table, hidden from view, I sent a text to Michelle's number. Now, Mark continued speaking, thanking the school, the PTA, his fellow nominees. "I've always believed that our children deserve our very best. They deserve our time, our attention, our commitment." Michelle, sitting near the back, pulled out a small remote, the wireless presenter I'd given her earlier. She pressed the button. The screen behind Mark flickered. And that's why I've tried to be present, to show up, to be someone Emma and Jake can. His words died as the first image appeared on the screen behind him. A text message conversation in large, readable font. Mark's name at the top. Messages between him and Jessica, time-stamped 3 months ago. "Mark, last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. Jessica, same room next Wednesday? Tell Sarah you have that client dinner. Mark, already done." She never suspects a thing. The gymnasium went silent. Absolutely silent. 300 people stared at the screen, reading words that made Mark's face drain of all color. He spun around, saw the evidence displayed in 10-foot letters, and I watched the exact moment he realized what was happening. The presentation continued automatically. More texts appeared. Then photos, not explicit ones. I'd been careful about that, but photos that left no doubt. Mark and Jessica at a restaurant, his arm around her. Mark and Jessica, in what was clearly a bedroom, lying together, his face visible, smiling at the camera. The date stamps showed an 18-month timeline, a documented affair while he'd been accepting praise as a devoted family man. "Turn it off," Mark said into the microphone, his voice cracking. "Turn it off." But I'd locked the laptop in the tech closet with Michelle holding the only key. The presentation played on. Text overlay appeared. "While receiving this award for being a devoted father and community member, Mark Mitchell has been lying to his family for 18 months. Parents gasped. Teachers whispered. Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Mom? What's happening? Why is Daddy's picture up there with that lady?" I pulled my children close, tears streaming down my face. "Daddy made some very bad choices, sweetie. But Mommy's going to make sure we're okay." Jake was crying too, not fully understanding but sensing something terrible had happened. I gathered them both in my arms, shielding them from the stares as the presentation reached its conclusion. A final message appeared. "The Mitchell family asks for privacy during this difficult time." The screen went black. Mark stood frozen on stage, the Parent of the Year plaque still in his hands. Principal Hendricks moved toward him, unsure what to do. Linda Morrison looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Then Michelle's husband, a quiet man who'd always liked Mark, stood up from their table. "You should leave," he said loudly, his voice carrying through the silent gymnasium. "Now." Mark's eyes found mine across the room. I met his gaze steadily, no longer crying, no longer trembling. He'd humiliated me every single day for 18 months. Now he knew how it felt. He set down the plaque and walked off the stage, down the center aisle, past rows of parents and teachers who'd once respected him. No one said a word as he left the gymnasium. The moment the door closed behind him, chaos erupted. People surrounded me, asking if I was okay, offering support, expressing shock and sympathy. Principal Hendricks made an announcement that the event was concluded, suggesting everyone go home. I gathered my children and left through a side exit where Michelle was waiting with her car. "My house," she said. "You're staying with us tonight." I didn't argue. I couldn't face going home, couldn't face Mark's inevitable calls and texts and attempts to explain or minimize or blame me for exposing him. Michelle's husband drove my car to their house while Michelle took Emma, Jake, and me. The kids were confused and scared, asking questions I wasn't ready to answer. Michelle's daughter's close friends with my children took them upstairs to watch movies while Michelle and I sat in her kitchen. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls from Mark, text messages, voicemails. I turned it off. The only person I wanted to talk to was Michelle, and she was right there, holding my hand across her kitchen table. "You did the right thing," she said firmly. "I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you did." "I destroyed my kids' lives," I whispered. "They had to watch that. Everyone they know saw that. Mark destroyed your kids' lives when he started cheating. You just made sure he couldn't keep pretending otherwise. Those kids deserve to see the truth, Sarah. They deserve to know why their family is falling apart, even if they're too young to fully understand right now." I spent the weekend at Michelle's house. My phone turned back on Saturday morning, had 63 missed calls from Mark, 47 text messages ranging from apologies to anger to blame, and dozens of messages from other people, teachers offering support, parents expressing shock, even a few I didn't know well reaching out to say they admired my courage. Monday morning, Michelle drove me to her law firm. Her boss, Patricia Chen, no relation to Jessica, a fact we all grimly acknowledged, took my case immediately. We filed for divorce that afternoon. Patricia was straightforward. Iowa's no-fault divorce laws meant the affair wouldn't matter much for the legal proceedings, but it would matter for public opinion, and in a small town like Cedar Falls, public opinion mattered a lot. Mark tried everything. He showed up at Michelle's house, begging to talk. He sent his mother to plead his case. I refused to see her. He claimed it was a mistake, that Jessica had pursued him, that it didn't mean anything. He swore he'd end it, go to counseling, do whatever it took to save our marriage. When none of that worked, he got angry, claiming I'd humiliated him on purpose, destroyed his reputation, turned the town against him. "You destroyed your own reputation," I told him during our one phone conversation. "I just made sure everyone knew the truth." The fallout was extensive. Riverside Construction's board demanded Mark's resignation within a week. Too many clients threatening to pull contracts, too much negative publicity. Jessica quietly left town, taking a job in Des Moines. The school board met to discuss whether to revoke Mark's Parent of the Year award. They ultimately voted to remove his name from the plaque and donate his award money to a scholarship fund. But something else happened too, something I didn't expect. Women started reaching out to me. First just a few, then dozens. Women from our church, from the PTA, from around town. They shared their own stories: husbands who'd cheated, partners who'd lied, relationships where they'd been made to feel crazy for questioning obvious red flags. Women who'd stayed silent, accepted it, made excuses, tried to work it out, protected their husbands' reputations at the cost of their own dignity. "I wish I'd had your courage," one woman told me at the grocery store. "I stayed for 20 years before I finally left. You saved yourself so much wasted time." The divorce took 4 months. Mark fought for custody, claiming I'd traumatized the children by exposing his affair publicly. But Emma and Jake, in age-appropriate therapy sessions, told the court-appointed counselor that while seeing that presentation had been scary and confusing, they were glad to know the truth. They were angry at their father for lying, hurt by his choices, and struggling with trust, but they didn't blame me for showing them reality. The house sold quickly. After splitting the equity, I had enough for a down payment on a small 2-bedroom rental closer to school. It wasn't much, but it was ours, mine and the kids. No more walking on eggshells, no more wondering where Mark really was, no more lies disguised as late work nights. Mark's life went differently. After losing his job, he struggled to find work in Cedar Falls. No construction company wanted to hire the man who'd become locally famous for his affair. He eventually moved to Des Moines, conveniently where Jessica had relocated, though he swore to the kids they weren't together. Emma didn't believe him. At 12 years old, she'd become cynical in ways that broke my heart. 6 months after the gala, I was sitting in my new living room grading papers when my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, I found Mark's mother standing there. We hadn't spoken since before the divorce was finalized. She'd been furious with me for exposing Mark, claiming I should have handled it privately, that I'd destroyed her son's life over a mistake. I'd stopped trying to explain that 18 months of deliberate lies wasn't a mistake. "Can I come in?" she asked. I almost said no. But something in her face, vulnerability I'd never seen before, made me step aside. She sat on my worn couch and folded her hands in her lap. "I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "I've spent the last 6 months defending Mark, blaming you, telling anyone who'd listen that you overreacted. But last week, I found out your father-in-law had an affair 30 years ago. He confessed because he said watching Mark go through this made him realize he needed to be honest. I didn't know what to say. For 30 years, I accepted it," she continued. "He said it was over, that it meant nothing, that I should be grateful he stayed. So I swallowed my pain and played the devoted wife, just like my mother taught me. I convinced myself that was what strong women did. They kept the family together no matter what." She looked up at me, eyes red. "You're stronger than I ever was. You taught my granddaughter that she doesn't have to accept betrayal. You taught my grandson that actions have consequences. I'm sorry I couldn't see that sooner." After she left, I cried for an hour. Not for Mark, not for our marriage, but for all the women like Mark's mother who'd learned to make themselves smaller, to accept less, to forgive the unforgivable, in the name of keeping peace. A year after the gala, Cedar Falls Elementary held another fundraiser. I was there again, helping set up, volunteering. Emma was in 8th grade now, Jake in 6th. We'd survived the hardest year of our lives. We were learning to laugh again, to trust again, to imagine a future that didn't include waiting for the next lie. Principal Hendricks pulled me aside during setup. "I wanted to tell you that we've had several parents come forward this year, couples getting help for infidelity, people seeking therapy, marriages either being saved through honesty or ending before more damage was done. What you did last year, it started a conversation this town needed to have." I thought about all those women who'd shared their stories with me, the support group Michelle and I had started that now met weekly in the church basement, the letters I'd received from strangers saying my story had given them courage to leave or fight or demand better. I didn't do it to start a conversation, I admitted. I did it because I was angry and hurt and wanted him to feel a fraction of what he'd made me feel. "Motivation doesn't matter as much as impact," she said. And the impact has been profound. That night, I lay in bed thinking about the woman I'd been 2 years ago, the one who'd clipped coupons and packed Mark's lunches and convinced herself that a distant husband was just a busy husband. That woman had died the day she scrolled through those photos. In her place was someone harder, wiser, less willing to compromise her worth. My phone buzzed. A text from Michelle, "Proud of you. Always." I smiled and texted back, "Couldn't have done it without you." But that wasn't entirely true. When it mattered most, when I'd had to make the choice between protecting Mark's reputation and protecting my own dignity, I'd found the strength inside myself. Not in anger, though there'd been plenty of that, but in the simple, revolutionary decision that I deserved better. That my children deserved a mother who valued herself enough to demand truth. That love without respect wasn't love at all. Mark and I will be connected forever through Emma and Jake. He's trying to rebuild a relationship with them, and I don't stand in the way of that. They deserve a father who shows up, who's honest, who demonstrates through actions what kind of person he wants to be. Whether Mark can become that person isn't my concern anymore. My concern is teaching my daughter that her worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to honor it. My concern is showing my son that real men don't lie to the people they claim to love. My concern is building a life where I wake up each morning knowing that the person sleeping in the room next to mine isn't a stranger wearing a familiar face. Some people in town still think I went too far, that I should have handled it privately, that public humiliation was cruel. Let them think that. They didn't live my life. They didn't spend 18 months being lied to while making dinner and helping with homework and believing in a marriage that existed only in their imagination. They don't get to judge how I chose to reclaim my truth. Every November, when the fundraiser gala comes around, I remember that moment standing in a gymnasium full of people who just witnessed my private pain made public. I remember my children's confused faces, the shock rippling through the crowd, the look on Mark's face when he realized his carefully constructed image had shattered. And I remember the feeling that came after the initial pain, the fierce, powerful certainty that I'd done exactly what I needed to do. Not for revenge, though I won't lie and say that wasn't part of it, but for something more important, for the truth, for my children, for myself. They say living well is the best revenge. Maybe that's true. But sometimes, before you can live well, you have to burn down the lies that were holding you back. You have to stand in the ashes of everything you thought you knew and decide who you're going to be when you rebuild. I chose to be someone who doesn't settle for pretty lies. Someone who values truth more than comfort. Someone who teaches her children that they deserve partners who respect them enough to be honest, even when honesty is hard. That's the woman I see when I look in the mirror now. Not the naive girl who married her high school sweetheart thinking love was enough. Not the overwhelmed mother who ignored red flags because she was too busy or too tired or too hopeful to confront them. But a woman who knows her worth and refuses to compromise it. Mark gave his Father of the Year acceptance speech for exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds before his secret life was revealed to everyone who mattered. Those 3 minutes cost him his marriage, his job, his reputation, and the respect of his children. And it freed me from a life built on lies. I'd do it again in a heartbeat.